So when we talk about it, again, think of those light bulbs and think of pressure points. Now, an easy way to understand pressure point is these are similar to acupuncture points. And again, a lot of people say, well, I don't know about pressure point fighting and whatever, but they have no problem going to an acupuncturist to cure a headache. Well, there's a point right here. It's called lung 5, and it's about 3 fingers down from the bend in the elbow. Okay, if you press on that point, you're going to disrupt the key energy flow. And so if you do that, okay, you're going to notice that there's a body reaction to that. Now, if I push in other places, I'm going to push equally hard. Billy will tell me if I'm lying. If I push in areas where there's no pressure point or key meridian, okay, then nothing happens. Watch his body reaction when I hit the right point. Again, it's a lung 5 point. Okay, so how do we know this? Well, again, those of us, let's sit back here, make it a little easier for the camera. Those of us who have practiced pressure point fighting or pressure point whatever, the criticism we always hear is, get real. He's punching you. You're not going to be able to use a pressure point. Okay, you're not going to be able to take your finger and you're going to be able to hit that exact lung 5 point. We're not supposed to. That's not the way they were intended. They are intended to allow us to have either pain compliance or to set up another reaction. What do I mean by that? Well, if he's punching and I happen to strike a blow on that, and that happens to lower him, it sets this all open. Okay? Now, in practical terms, what we're doing is we're doing 2 things. One, we're causing pain, of course, but at the same time, the really important thing is to set this up for an upward strike. And this is the part where I always explain to people that if you're teaching everybody that this is a static upward block, what I call kiddie karate, think about it. Did Chinese generals in the 1300s really train their soldiers to stand there like this and accept blows from people charging at them with clubs? No. This was never meant to be a static position. Neither was the deep front stance. These are ending and closing positions. So this particular move was actually an upward strike and blow to this area here. But if you simply hit someone, in the neck here, the other way. If I simply pound someone in there, it'll hurt a little bit, and then he'll turn around and knock me out. But if there's a plexus of pressure points right in here, where the carotid artery, the phrenic nerve that goes to the diaphragm, the vagus nerve that goes to the heart, and the carotid artery that goes to the heart and controls all the blood flow to the brain. All of those are in that same triangle. If I set up this pressure point, okay, right in here, and I hit it here, exposing this, and as he's coming down, I'm coming up with a strike, it's going to take his head off. You have to be very careful when you practice this because you can either knock him out or kill him, and that's not the intent of what we do. So what you're doing is energizing this, much like short-circuiting one part of the electric cable. So one of the most common drills that I see, and just going to be punching here, one of the most common drills that we see, and we see this a lot in karate, although we see it in several other styles, is a triple block with a strike. So he punches, and we see this a lot. Okay, punch, boom, okay, go. Right? And I often wonder why we wasted time with this, and this, and this. Right? Why do a threesome? Right? When it's just as easy to go like that. And the reason that I later learned when I started studying key application is not only are we chambering, meaning not only are we cocking into a fight, into a technique rather, but we're using pressure point and key interruption. How do we do that? This is not supposed to be a simple push block. This is not supposed to be an inside-outside block. And this is not supposed to be a simple knife hand to that area. I mean, you can try it. I'm going to hit him fairly hard, and you tell me how that hurts if you go down. Boom. Okay? Great. He's still standing. I'm in trouble, especially if it's Hulk Hogan. What this is technique 1, and I'm going to do it in 3-part. Now, while I talk about a 3-part, I would emphasize that in Heimukwan Hapkido, we always tell our students, you're going to learn initially 1, 2, 3 because we're learning, but it's all done simultaneously. It's all done as a flowing technique. We don't teach static movements here. This is not about standing still and absorbing blows and following and chambering. Because there's always going to be somebody stronger or as strong. And if you trade blows, you're going to both be in pain. One of the fundamental overriding principles of Hapkido is the principle of non-resistance, and another one, just as important, is the water and the circle principle. The water principle is I'm going to flow. I am not going to stand still and absorb. And if he pushes, I'm going to pull. So this technique here, 1, 2, 3, is in reality a knife hand or forearm blow to the pressure points on the wrist. That's going to numb his hand, especially if he's got a little short stick or a knife or whatever. So he comes in with this, boom. Second hit, back to lung 5. You can either do this as a bone forearm strike, as a closed wrist, a flexed wrist strike, a downward strike, or a knife hand. That is going to do just what we talked about. Boom, it's going to turn his head, and it's going to open up those pressure points into the third push strike.